Hi, I'm Suresh Venkat. You're watching a roundtable on India-Africa synergies. Let me start by introducing the participants. Mr. Gurmeet Chopra, Country Manager of Africa for Avasant, a BPO advisory firm. Mr. Anand, Nagarajan, CEO, Dexler Information Solutions, a leading learning solutions provider. And Eunice, Kariuki, Marketing Director for the ICT Authority of Kenya. Gentlemen, and Eunice, welcome to this discussion. Let me start with my first question for you, Gurmeet. We in India tend to see Africa as a country, right? Because it seems a lot like India with its different regions. Is that a fundamental strategic mistake to see Africa as one large country?
Yes, absolutely. So Africa is actually a consortium of 52 countries, each with its own nuances and special characteristics. So that's the prime mistake that we all do, look at Africa as one country, and that's where most of the strategies of people who are trying to penetrate have failed. You've got to identify the nuances of each location and then address them appropriately.
Anand, you've been to Africa recently and multiple times.
Yes.
What should Indian businesses be looking at in Africa?
It's a little bit of what Gurmeet said, but then again, it's from an Indian business perspective. I think we need to be cognizant of two things. I mean, you have the entry strategy for the large organizations that go in for the big bang entry, 6-7 countries at a time. I think the interesting thing for Indian businesses that are not in the big names, the smaller, medium-sized sectors, can also find a lot of opportunities in terms of smaller markets, and if they're able to look at getting their feet right, getting the right partners for the local markets, there's, I think, a huge amount of headroom available in the African market across the sectors for Indian companies, irrespective of the scale and size.
Right. Eunice, why are you in India? What are you looking at in India?
I come to India for many reasons. But the very principal one is that we come to learn from India's ICT industry. We also come to India to seek partnerships because we learn best if we are in partnerships. We are looking to scale. Where I come from, Kenya, we have a little bit of everything, but we are short of scale. We are not short of innovation. We are not short of skills. We are not short of talent. But what we are short of is scale. And we think by having conversations with the Indian ICT industry players, we can achieve that.
Some of India's key advantages in the ICT sector are a large pool of engineering graduates, our knowledge of English, and a demographic that is largely under 30. I think 60% of the country is under 30. Give us a sense of what Kenya's relative strengths are in the ICT industry.
India and Kenya are totally in a different league when it comes to populations, be it the number of graduates coming out of university, be it just a general market size. However, one thing we have in common is the talent pool. We may not have the numbers, but the quality of the talent available in Kenya is as good as that in India in certain respects, but not in numbers. So we have a youthful population that is bursting with energy, entrepreneurship spirit, and every day we are getting innovations that are amazingly customized to the local problems, solving day-to-day problems using ICT. So in terms of comparison, the challenges are the same, but the talent pool can be the same. We have serious unemployment across Africa. In many countries in Africa, we have problems that can actually be solved easily using ICT. And we think the youth, who comprise majority of the population, understand those problems better and innovate around them better.
Gurmeet, next question for you. Many Indian businesses post-1990 learned to do business with the West, which is countries in Europe and specifically the United States, and that's become our largest trading partner over the last 20 years. Are the rules for doing business in Africa very different from those of the West?
Yes, these rules of engagement are a little different from, going to the West, which is far more mature market. Here, you need to have patience. You need to, understand that they're not at that maturity level that you are used to working with. So you've got to scale down some of your thought processes. You've got to partner with them. You've got to educate them. You've got to make them move up the value chain to be effective partners with there. So that's another mistake that a lot of these guys do. They go with their, PowerPoints and toolkits, sales toolkits, but they really fail because the guy who they're trying to address is not, you're understanding what is being spoken about.
Okay. Is that the only significant difference? Are there other differences that Indian, especially mid and small size businesses?
So the other, I think, the other difference is the local partner. So here, the local partner plays a very key role. The buyer is a local guy itself, and he's looking for somebody who could support him on a day-to-day basis. Unlike the West, where they're okay with a remote support possible, and a lot of things can happen on the emails and data traffic. But here they would want FaceTime with the service provider. They would want him to come and visit. They want him to come and educate. So I think that's another thing.
Much like Indians, we like meeting face to face. We are not big fans of teleconferencing and telecommuting.
Yeah.
Right. And culturally, are there significant differences that come in the way of doing business with Africa? Because we are used to dealing with, say, what people use a mother term called Indian culture of doing business with each other, and with the Western culture, which follows a certain model. But Africa being 52 different countries, is it incredibly hard to navigate the cultural nuances between all the different countries and to do business with them?
In general, no.
Okay.
I mean, there might be specific situations that people can run into, obviously, but then in general, no. Primarily for two very significant reasons. A, the Indian diaspora has been in Africa for 4 or 5 generations. There are large business houses that are already run by Indian families over there. So it's not that being Indian.
But they are, for all intents and purposes, Africans now,
yes,
after 3 or 4 generations.
They are, for all intents and purposes, also Indians. I mean, so for the local people there, I mean, if you were to consider these,
they're still considered Indian.
They're still considered Indian. And the second significant piece is that a lot of the people in Africa have probably been educated in India, have undergone a higher education system in India. So it's not unusual for them to understand, cultural subtleties and differences across each side of the border. So it's not a huge glaring issue in terms of working with one another.
I'd like to add something here. A lot of mid-management, if you look in Africa, is a lot of Indian diaspora who's now moving there. Okay. So they're running mills, they're running training organizations, they're running mobility businesses. Okay. So that's again getting the cultures really close together.
Okay. Eunice, what's the big attraction for Indians to work in Africa, Kenya especially?
We seem to gel very well, and part of it is just a simple, the reason you gave earlier that, or was it Anand, that we have 4th generation, 5th generation Indians in Kenya. So we have a lot of similarity in our culture, and I think Africans in general are very open to investors, to countries that are offering to help them just leapfrog the gaps in development. Okay. And Indians come willingly and ready. Okay. And they are willing to sort of drop the big boy sort of image and just get down and grow with us. And we find that very inviting in Africa because we realize what we lack. We know what we lack, and we lack experience, and we know we only learn if we get into these close partnerships. And the fact that a lot of African countries were colonized before by certain other nationalities helped us to be very diverse and versatile. Okay. We adapt very easily. We adapt very, very easily. In that sense,
similar to India?
Similar to India, and so we are able to do business pretty much very quickly.
The cultural factors, both Indians and Africans, we love celebrating, we love color, we love noise, we love food, we love families. Do these factors enable business transactions to say, or to enable business-to-business collaborations?
The Indian is always going to be seen first and foremost as money-wise. They are quite known in Kenya for, there's something called Dukawala concept. They brought the duka, the shop, the street shop. Okay. So money-wise, they are very good, and they're also very strict with business. Okay. So there's a certain sense that if a business is being run by an Indian, they're going to sort of get everything they can out of you. Okay. And we associate that with success, and we are not too opposed to that kind of setup. Okay. We sort of learn from them, and we just agree to work with them. So we work pretty much well and leave the diversity to bring the value on the table.
All right. Gurmeet, if I was an Indian business, the top 5 countries in Africa that should be on my visit calendar?
Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, probably Tanzania to an extent now, and South Africa.
In that order? In
that order. Kenya is right on top, I notice. In that sense, is Africa the new India? What India was in the early 90s and early 2000s, that land of opportunity, unexplored, the whole world was making a beeline. Is Africa taking some of India's advantages away?
No, I don't think so.
Especially in the BPO industry?
No, I don't think so. See, a lot of BPOs that we've consulted with or we were talking to, it's an extension to their India business. So you're not losing any business here. The client itself is looking for a non-India center, and it's an opportunity for them to grow in those markets and reap the benefits of the geography that offers. So I don't think so. It's a loss for India.
It's not a zero-sum game between
No.
Africa and India.
Just to add on to Gurmeet, so Eunice and we will keep speaking about this in terms of saying whether Africa is a sell-to market or a sell-from market.
Yeah.
Right? So I think India is traditionally all about $100 billion export. We are increasingly looking at the IT opportunities that are domestic to the country here. Africa right now is great because it has the appetite for domestic consumption of IT. E-governance, healthcare systems, how do they take their mobile systems to the next generation, which is already ahead of us. So how do they have more value-added services for people? So it's more about domestic consumption, which is the opportunity. So it's not really competing with as much in the export market as much as we would have expected other countries to.
And I think, we are very aware of that fact.
Okay.
You find most of the business community there is very much aware of that fact, that we are looking to India to help us solve the problems in the domestic scene.
Okay.
And if somewhere along the way we are able to export,
okay,
then well and good. But one thing is a fact. There's a lot of innovation that is coming out of Africa that can no longer be ignored.
Okay.
And the receptiveness. The governments are very receptive. There's a maturity that is coming on board, which previously we were seen as unsafe, we were seen as immature politically. We are learning how to deliver almost to equal standards as Indian companies. So that openness makes it quite fitting.
Okay. So you're saying political risk is significantly lower in the Africa of today, especially in countries like Kenya?
Absolutely. Okay. There are very, very stable countries there. I mean, it's unfortunate that we kind of, like you opened and said, country versus continent. I mean, we generally just have a very myopic view of Africa in terms of saying, I mean, we hear what we read in the news, but then there are countries like Kenya, and there are countries like Uganda, Ghana, which are extremely stable countries for people to go in and pursue their business interests.
Right. Let me change the topic a little bit to the idea of social business. The idea of social business is catching on in a big way in India, the ability to serve the bottom end of the pyramid, using the tools of free market and using the tools of private production with minimal government intervention. What potential do you see for Africa and India to collaborate on the social business side? Clean water, sanitation, healthcare.
It is biggest in Africa actually, because that's why we also have quite some serious challenges in availing these services to the citizenry. However, the route to delivering those services is what is challenging, because Africa is also very diverse. And the challenges range from just lack of access to lack of the actual water and what have you. But right in between there is where the opportunity is. So social businesses will thrive, but they will only thrive with scale. Otherwise, it becomes an investment, a seed investment far apart.
Okay.
So scale is going to be very critical so that returns can be realized.
All right, my final question for you once again, Gurmeet. 3 things that no CEO at NASSCOM knows about Africa. They should know but don't know.
The opportunity which is available there for them to take, they are aware of it, but nobody is exploring it in a manner that the talent pool that they can actually utilize to de-risk the businesses in India and drive economies from there. And probably the third one I would say is the domestic market, which is opening up. So tremendous opportunities to service the country that you're based out of and the region it is in.
Anand, a question for you. 3 secrets to success in Africa. If you're a business, the 3 things that will make you a success.
Be local,
okay,
think local, find the right partners, and be relevant to the current situation in terms of what they're looking for.
All right, Eunice, final question for you. 3 things you could change about, you wish you could change about Indian business in their attitude to Africa. Indian business or people, governments, people or business.
Wow, I'm here to shop, so that puts me on the spot, all right? But
your wish list, 3 things that you wish were different.
I really do want them to experiment with Africa, especially the more established companies.
Okay.
They should not just be directed by what is said in the international media whenever there is a small calamity here and there. They shouldn't be influenced.
Make up their own minds, visit Africa and make up their own mind.
I would want to invite them to come and do their own due diligence, to use consultancies better, and to engage specifically with governments. Because the governments have their arms open and they're willing to discuss and get them through those initial challenges they may experience in the early days of setting up.
Okay. It's one thing, but it's a significant one thing on your wish list. You've convinced me to make the trip to Africa, so I'll be in Kenya soon.
Kenya and Africa has a lot to offer, and the only secret is for you to come and discover.
All right, Eunice, gentlemen, thank you for participating in this discussion.
Thank you very much.